All right, ready to dive deep today. We've got some seriously thought-provoking excerpts you all sent in.
Oh, yeah.
From Ellen Gavriliuk's book, Social Cognition, The Construction of the Self in Social Contexts.
Great book.
It is, specifically Chapter 7. And this stuff is, well, let me tell you.
Mind-blowing.
It really is mind-blowing. It's all about how our minds use these shortcuts, to navigate this crazy social world.
Right.
And sometimes those shortcuts, well, they don't always take us where we expect.
Sometimes down some pretty interesting paths.
They do. It's not just about understanding these concepts, like theoretically.
Right.
It's about how they show up in our daily lives, like how we see things, how we judge, even how we remember things.
Absolutely. And Gavriliuk does such a good job.
He does.
Bringing these ideas to life.
Yeah.
With, real-world examples, fascinating research.
I love that.
Yeah, he starts with stereotypes. I mean, something we all kind of come across every day.
We do.
But he makes us think about them as more than just
those oversimplified images, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so stereotypes.
Yeah.
I feel like we all know what those are.
Yeah, we think we do.
But what's Gavriliuk's take?
So he begins with this, classic definition from Walter Lippmann. He says stereotypes are like pictures in our heads.
Pictures in our heads, okay.
Shaping how we see different social groups.
Okay.
But Gavriliuk takes it a step further.
Okay.
He says stereotypes, they aren't just simplifications. They're deeply ingrained beliefs, with this strong emotional component.
So it's not just the picture, it's
the feeling.
It's the feeling attached to it.
Exactly.
And that can really affect how we treat people, how we interact with them.
Exactly. And he uses this.
I was going to say, give me an example.
He gives this great example, this experiment by Allport and Postman back in 1947.
Oh, wow, okay.
They showed participants a scene on a subway.
Okay.
A black man and a white man kind of having this confrontation.
All right.
And the white man actually had a knife.
Okay, I'm already hooked. What happened?
So they turned it into a kind of telephone game.
Oh, tell me more.
Each participant describes the scene to the next person.
Okay.
What they found was, as this story's passed along, things get distorted.
Oh.
And the distortions, they reflected the participants' own racial stereotypes.
Oh, wow.
So by the end, the black man is often described as the aggressor.
No way.
Often holding the knife.
Even though
he wasn't.
That's scary.
It's a powerful illustration.
It is.
Of how stereotypes can really bias not only our perception, but our memory, too.
So even what we remember might not even be right.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder how much of what we think we remember is accurate.
Right. It's a very sobering thought.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
It really underscores how important it is to be aware of our own potential biases.
Especially in, heated moments, right?
Especially then, because those are the times when our memories...
Well, then it might not be.
They might not be as reliable as we think.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to be second-guessing my memories from now on.
Good.
But okay, let's move on to the next big idea from the chapter, cognitive dissonance.
Oh.
What is that?
It's that, uncomfortable feeling when what we do clashes with what we believe.
Although that inner tension.
Yeah,
I've felt that.
We're driven to resolve it, right?
There we are.
Leon Festinger, the guy who came up with this whole idea, he said it's such a powerful force that often makes us act in really unexpected ways.
So give me a real-world example. How does this play out in, everyday life?
Gavriliuk uses this fascinating story.
Ooh, I love a good story.
Of Mrs. Keach.
Mrs. Keach, okay.
And her group of seekers who were convinced the world was about to end.
Oh, wow.
They gave up everything.
Everything.
Jobs, possessions, even their families.
Wow, talk about commitment.
Right, to prepare for this apocalypse.
Okay, but what happened when the world didn't end? Did they have, a massive oops moment?
Not exactly. When that predicted doomsday came and went, instead of saying, oh, we were wrong, they doubled down on their beliefs.
No way.
They became even more convinced.
Really?
Yeah, they convinced themselves that it was their faith that had saved the world.
Can you imagine the mental gymnastics?
Oh, the mental gymnastics.
That's amazing.
Right.
It's like you buy something you can't afford, and then you spend the next month justifying it to yourself.
Exactly. It's like, why did I do that? But then your brain goes, no, it was a good idea because...
Yes. It was on sale at work.
And it's meant to be.
Exactly.
We're driven to reduce that dissonance.
Even if it means, bending the truth a little bit.
Even if it means twisting the facts a bit.
Wow.
And it's especially powerful when you're part of a group
that shares
your beliefs.
That makes sense.
It's much easier to hold on to those beliefs even when they're challenged.
Because you have that support.
You have that social support.
So groupthink can make this whole dissonance thing even stronger.
It can.
Interesting.
And to really see how this dissonance shapes our attitudes, Gavrilyuk talks about this classic experiment by Festinger and Carl Smith.
I think I've heard of this one.
Where they had students lie about enjoying this boring task.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they pay them to lie?
They did.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The students who got paid less to lie actually ended up believing they enjoyed the task more.
Wait, so the ones who got more money weren't as convinced?
No, because think about it.
Okay.
The ones who got a big reward could easily justify their lie. They're like, okay, well, I lied for the money, no big deal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the ones who only got a tiny payment, they had a harder time rationalizing.
Because it wasn't worth it.
Right. So their brains went, well, I must have actually enjoyed this task. Why else would I lie about it?
Oh, their minds basically rewrote the experience.
They did.
To make it fit what they did.
Exactly.
That's wild.
It is. It shows we're not always aware of what's shaping our attitudes.
Right.
We like to think we're in control, but sometimes
our brains are doing their own thing.
Our brains are working behind the scenes, making those adjustments.
Just to keep everything.
It's just to keep things consistent.
So we're not as rational as we think we are.
Not always. And Gavrilyuk doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. He digs into how social factors can actually change how we experience and resolve this dissonance.
Okay.
He talks about this fascinating forbidden toy experiment.
Forbidden toys. Now, this sounds interesting.
All right. So researchers told these kids they couldn't play with a certain toy.
Okay.
Some got a mild warning, others a really stern one.
Okay.
Later, they're asked how much they like the toy.
Okay.
The kids from middle-class backgrounds who got the mild warning actually ended up liking the toy less.
That's so interesting. Why would a mild warning make them like it less?
Because they had to justify not playing with it.
Ah.
They couldn't say, oh, well, the experimenter was mean. So their brains went, well, the toy must not be that great after all.
So it's dissonance reduction.
Inaction.
Inaction.
Yeah.
But all the kids didn't do that right.
They didn't. The kids from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, they didn't show the same thing.
Interesting.
They stuck with their initial preference.
So how we deal with that conflict, that inner tension, it's
influenced by our upbringing.
It really is. Wow, that's fascinating.
Right. It makes you think how many other choices we make are shaped by things we don't even realize.
Absolutely. And that brings us to, I think, maybe the most mind-bending concept of all.
Oh, yeah.
Choice blindness.
Here we go.
Lay it on me. What is that all about?
This is where things get really wild.
All right, I'm ready.
Peter Johansson, the researcher who kind of came up with this whole idea, he shows that we can be completely unaware of changes to our own choices.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we even make up reasons to support decisions that weren't even ours to begin with.
Okay, so you're telling me we don't even know why we make the choices we do?
Sometimes.
That's a little unsettling.
It is a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
But the research is really compelling, and one of the best examples is this face preference experiment.
Okay, face preference.
Where participants were shown 2 pictures of faces.
Okay.
And they had to say which one they found more attractive.
I'm following so far.
Okay, so then using a bit of sleight of hand, the researchers swapped the photos, showing them the face they didn't choose, as if it was the one they picked originally.
And they didn't notice.
Nope. They went on and on about why they found that face attractive.
Even though they didn't choose it.
Even though they had actually chosen the other one just moments before.
That is incredible.
Right.
It's like our brains are playing tricks on us.
They are. It seems like we have this deep-seated need to believe we're in control of our choices.
Yeah.
And that we make them for good reasons.
Okay.
So when we're faced with evidence to the contrary...
Like in this case.
Right. Our brains scramble to create a story.
Even if they have to make it up.
Even if it means inventing reasons for choices we never made.
That's pretty wild. It really makes you think.
It does. And it gets even wilder when you see how choice blindness plays out in real-world situations.
Like, what? Don't tell me elections.
You got it. Johansson and his team did this study during a Swedish election that really highlights how deep this can go. They asked voters about their stances on these key political issues, to get a sense of where they stood politically.
Okay.
But then they use that sleight of hand again, manipulating the voters' answers to reflect like the opposite viewpoint.
Hold on, so they changed people's answers without them even knowing.
They did.
That sounds like it would cause some serious problems.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
What?
The voters, they not only didn't notice, they actually defended those changed positions.
Yeah.
As if they were their own.
So they were arguing for things that...
They came up with these elaborate explanations...
No way.
...for policies that totally went against what they originally said.
So you're telling me people can be, like, tricked into supporting stuff they actually oppose?
It's a disturbing possibility.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It raises all these questions about how much we're really in control of our opinions.
And what's influencing us without us even realizing it. Right.
Frankly.
Okay. This whole thing is making me rethink how we make decisions. So what does all this mean for us? Are we just like puppets in some big cognitive game?
I wouldn't say it's that dire.
Okay.
But it really shows how important critical thinking is.
And being self-aware, right?
And self-awareness, yeah. We need to question our own assumptions.
Be open to different viewpoints.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we risk falling prey to those biases.
Making choices that don't really reflect what we believe.
Exactly. Making choices that don't align with our true values. So it's about being more mindful, more intentional.
More deliberate in our thinking, absolutely.
So it's about taking control, right? We can be the authors of our own stories instead of just reacting to whatever comes at us.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's not about beating ourselves up for having these biases.
Right.
But using them as like opportunities to learn and grow.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process, right? We're bombarded with information all the time.
We are.
Our brains are constantly looking for those shortcuts.
To make sense of it all.
But by cultivating that self-awareness and being willing to question those assumptions, we can break free from those automatic responses.
And make choices that are more true to ourselves.
Exactly. More aligned with our values.
It's like we're getting this behind-the-scenes look at our own minds.
Right.
Seeing how everything works.
Seeing all the gears turning.
And once we understand this system, we can start to tweak it.
We can make it work better for us.
I like that.
And that exploration, it can lead to some pretty profound insights.
Not just about ourselves, but about how we interact with everyone and everything, right?
Exactly.
So I'm curious, are there ever times when these shortcuts, like stereotypes, dissonance, choice blindness, could they actually be helpful?
That's a great question, and Gavrilovic actually talks about that.
He does.
He argues that while they can definitely be problematic, they can also serve some adaptive functions.
Okay, how can a stereotype ever be a good thing? I feel like it's always about making unfair judgments.
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Stereotypes can help us make fast decisions.
In what kind of situations?
When we don't have all the information, imagine walking home alone late at night.
Okay, it's dark. I'm alone.
You see someone lurking in an alleyway.
Okay, yeah, that's scary.
Your brain might automatically categorize that person.
Based on how they look?
Based on their appearance, triggering that fight or flight response.
So my brain is trying to keep me safe, even if it's using information that might be biased.
Right, it's a survival mechanism.
Okay.
A way to assess danger quickly.
But obviously, just relying on stereotypes in that situation could be dangerous too.
It could be dangerous and unfair.
Right.
But the point is, our brains have evolved to make these quick judgments.
With limited information.
And sometimes those snap judgments can be beneficial.
Okay, so it's like our brains are trying to give us the best chance of survival.
Exactly.
Even if it means taking some shortcuts.
But the key is to be aware of when those shortcuts are leading us down the wrong path.
So what about cognitive dissonance? Can that ever be a good thing? It always seems to be tied to those icky feelings like guilt and anxiety.
While it can be uncomfortable,
it can.
Gavrilovic says it can actually be a powerful motivator for growth.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about it. When we feel that inconsistency between what we do and what we believe, it can push us to examine our values more closely.
And make changes.
And make changes that are more true to ourselves.
So instead of just trying to ignore that conflict inside.
Right.
We can actually use it to make positive changes.
Absolutely. Turn that discomfort into a catalyst for transformation.
I like that, a catalyst.
Yeah, let's say someone sees themselves as a healthy person.
Okay.
But they realize they've been making unhealthy choices. That dissonance
could motivate them.
It can motivate them to change their lifestyle.
To be more in line with their values.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, no pain, no gain.
Right.
But for our mental and emotional well-being.
Exactly.
So dissonance can be like a wake-up call.
It can.
That we're not always living up to our own standards.
It's a reminder that we're not always living in alignment with our true selves.
And what about choice blindness? Can that ever be a good thing? It seems so counterintuitive.
It does, right. But Gavrilyuk suggests it might actually boost our confidence in our decisions. Because if we were constantly second-guessing ourselves, we might never make a decision.
We'd be paralyzed by indecision.
So choice blindness kind of helps us move forward.
It helps us commit.
Even when we're not totally sure why we made a certain choice.
Interesting idea, isn't it?
It is.
These things we often see as flaws might actually be essential for us.
For our survival.
For our survival, our growth, even our sense of self.
So it sounds like these shortcuts, they can be helpful or harmful.
It depends.
It depends on the situation and how we use them.
Yes, like they're tools.
They can be used for good or bad.
Exactly.
But how do we make sure we're using them for good?
That's the big question.
It is.
And while Gavrilyuk doesn't give us a simple answer, he stresses how important it is to develop what's called metacognitive awareness.
Metacognitive awareness. That sounds pretty intense. What is that?
It's basically the ability to think about our own thinking.
Whoa, meta.
Right.
Yeah.
To be aware of our thought patterns, our biases.
Our motivations, so it's like taking a step back.
Taking a step back.
And looking at our own minds.
From a more objective perspective.
So it's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually.
Right.
We have to actually practice self-reflection.
We have to pay attention to how our minds work.
Be willing to challenge our own ideas.
Seek out different viewpoints.
And admit when we're wrong.
And consider alternative interpretations.
So it's like training our minds to be more flexible,
more open,
more resilient to these biases.
Absolutely. And that takes effort.
It does.
It's not passive.
It's active.
It's active. It means engaging with challenging ideas.
Being open to things that make us uncomfortable.
And being willing to admit when we're wrong.
Which can be really hard.
It can.
But it sounds like it's worth it.
It is. The rewards can be significant.
How so?
By becoming more aware of our own thought processes.
Yeah.
We gain more control over our choices.
Over our interactions.
Over our interactions, ultimately our lives.
It's powerful stuff.
And it's not just about individual growth either.
It's about society as a whole, right?
Cultivating this metacognitive awareness on a societal level can help us address all these systemic issues. Prejudice, discrimination, political polarization.
So it's about realizing that these shortcuts aren't just personal quirks.
They're not. They're deeply ingrained patterns.
That shape everything.
They shape our institutions, our policies, how we behave as a society.
So by understanding them, we can start to dismantle these harmful systems.
We can create a more just and equitable world.
Wow, this is making me really think about how my own mind works.
That's great.
I'm going to start paying more attention to those times when I have a strong reaction to a person or a situation and ask myself,
is this based on my own experience?
Or am I seeing things through a biased lens?
That's a great takeaway.
Is it really about being perfectly objective, though?
No, it's not about achieving perfect objectivity.
Okay.
It's about recognizing our biases.
Questioning our assumptions.
And striving for greater understanding.
Of ourselves and the world around us. This deep dive has been so fascinating.
It has
really opened my eyes to how these things work.
It's like you said, turning on the lights in a room you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
And it's an ongoing process of discovery.
The more we learn about these processes,
the more we realize there's so much more to uncover.
It's exciting.
It is.
And a little daunting.
It is, but it's that depth and complexity that makes it so fascinating.
It does.
It makes us realize how intricate and amazing our minds really are.
It really is. It's like we've been given this decoder ring.
Yeah.
For like the human experience, you know, to understand these hidden forces that are shaping
our thoughts, our feelings, everything. And like any powerful tool, it's up to us
to use it wisely.
To use it wisely, we can use it to
build bridges.
Build bridges of understanding.
To challenge prejudice.
To create a more compassionate world.
Wow.
Or we can ignore these insights and allow these shortcuts to perpetuate
those harmful
cycles.
So, for our listener, what can they do with this understanding?
Where do they even begin?
Stereotypes, dissonance, choice blindness, it's a lot.
It is. I think the most important thing is to just be curious. About their own mental processes.
So start paying attention.
Start paying attention to those moments.
To those moments when you have a strong reaction.
To a person, to a situation.
And ask yourself,
is this based on what I've actually experienced?
Or am I seeing things through a lens?
Or am I filtering this through a lens that's already there?
So it's about becoming like a detective of your own mind.
It is. Become a detective.
Noticing those little cues, the patterns.
Those subtle patterns.
That reveal these hidden biases that we have.
And don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions.
I was going to say, challenge yourself.
Yeah, challenge yourself. Talk to people with different viewpoints.
Be open to being wrong.
Be open to the fact that you might be wrong.
That can be tough, though.
It can, but it's so important.
It is.
Because it helps us grow.
So embrace that discomfort of maybe not knowing everything.
Right. Embrace the uncertainty.
Because our understanding is always changing.
It's always evolving.
It's like we're constantly updating
our mental software.
adding new features, fixing bugs as we go.
And when you feel that cognitive dissonance,
That inner conflict.
yeah, don't just try to explain it away.
Okay.
Use that discomfort as an opportunity.
An opportunity for
growth, for change.
change. To examine your beliefs.
And make sure your actions.
And make changes that align with what you truly value.
So instead of sweeping those inconsistencies under the rug,
Bring them out into the open.
use them to make things better.
Use them as fuel for positive change.
I like that.
Yeah.
And choice blindness, we're all susceptible to it, right?
We are. Don't assume your choices are always perfect.
Or rational.
Or rational. Take time to reflect.
Reflect on those decisions.
Understand what might be influencing you.
And be open to changing your mind.
If you learn something new. So cultivate that healthy skepticism.
Healthy skepticism.
Toward ourselves and the world.
Not in a cynical way,
but in a curious way.
in a curious, open-minded way.
It's about always learning.
It's about always learning.
And growing.
Yeah, and remember, we'll never be totally free from these shortcuts.
Yeah.
But we can be aware of them. We can mitigate their influence.
And make better choices.
Make choices that are more true to ourselves.
More true to ourselves and our values.
And ultimately, our vision for the world.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
We've learned how stereotypes, dissonance, choice blindness,
all these shortcuts.
they can shape our perceptions and our decisions.
I really can.
But knowing about them gives us the power.
Gives us the power to make more conscious choices.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
That the world we experience
isn't some objective reality.
It's shaped by our own minds.
It's the construction.
So next time you find yourself making a snap judgment,
yeah.
or trying to justify a decision you're not sure about,
or feeling that dissonance,
that inner conflict,
take a moment to pause.
Pause and reflect.
Ask yourself, what's really going on here? Am I falling prey to one of those shortcuts?
Am I?
And remember, this journey of self-discovery, it's not about being perfect.
It's about being aware.
It's about being curious.
Challenging ourselves.
Challenging our assumptions.
It's about embracing the messiness of being human.
And striving to be more compassionate.
More deliberate.
More intentional.
This deep dive has been a real mind bender.
It has, in the best way possible.
It has. We've learned so much.
And we have.
And I'm walking away feeling
empowered.
Humbled and empowered. It's a good combination.
It is. It's a good combination.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this with you.
Likewise, I've really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to keep exploring as well.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity
and given you some tools
to navigate this complex social world.
Remember, it's not about being perfect.
It's about being aware.
Being curious.
Challenging your own assumptions.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
Keep diving deep.